Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Gareth Southgate is resigned as England men's manager. In this video, we'll talk about whether he's made the right decision, look back at his tenure as England manager, and we'll go through some of the names linked as his successor. So let us know your thoughts down below, and subscribe to Gareth Football if you're new around here. So Dennis Wiz, thanks for joining, lads. So as I say, Gareth Southgate is handing his resignation as England manager. So let's talk about that, and has he made the right decision? So Wiz, do you want to go first, mate?
Yeah, he's made the right decision. Yeah, simple as that. Done. No, he has. I think for him personally, from the sound of it, we don't have any more profound insights here than what's been reported in the press. But it sounds like it was taking its toll on him. The reactions, he was surprised by the reaction he was getting during the tournament, and I think he had some good right to be surprised by cups being thrown at him. I think that's a long-standing problem with English football culture and expectation and sense of entitlement there. So he can deserve to feel aggrieved. I think he can deserve to feel a bit underappreciated for the job he has done. But I think he's not beyond criticism. I think is an understatement, really, and especially this tournament. And I think that's what's brought it to a head. But, I don't care. Maybe he should be knighted. He's a fantastic guy. Being a good bloke is a really good thing. I think he was at the helm when we needed the laughter to stop about England after Iceland and after Allardyce. But yeah, it's weird seeing people queuing up to pay tribute now who just kind of binned him completely. There was no nuance to their criticism, no real foundation in terms of understanding why England were playing so badly. But in terms of integrity, I think he leaves a really good platform for somebody else, because I think he's changed that kind of quite toxic culture. If you think of a team like France and how they've had all the talent in the world for a very long time and how they implode every few years because of the culture in the squad, I think he's fixed big parts of that, and I think that will be his legacy.
Yeah, well said, mate. And for you, Dennis?
Yeah, I think if it's better for him to go now than endure another 2 years of doing good in qualifiers, etc., and then get into the tournament and everyone just going, first thing, we don't win 2-3-0 at the beginning of the game suddenly. I heard people in the pub at the Serbia game slagging him off. We were winning. It weren't the best performance in the world, but it's like, we're winning. If we were drawing or we were losing and then the performance becomes an issue, I'd understand. But people saying like, oh, he should just resign. He should just resign. These are the type of people also suggesting that Harry Redknapp should take over for the rest of the tournament, how serious this is. And it's that said, like he mentioned after the semi-final, like we all want to be loved. And I think he opened up a bit more about that. Like we'll probably save quite a bit of what I want to say about him personally for a review of his reign. But I think, it could be better the devil where who else comes in next really struggles. Like, for example, when we brought in Sam Allardyce first time round, I know it seems like we're picking on him a little bit here, but the first thing he came out after that scraped a 1-0 win over, I believe, Slovakia or Slovenia, one of the two. He said, I can't tell Wayne Rooney where to play. Yet at the same time, and no one, he was just met with a laugh, whereas Southgate gets pelters for playing Foden on the left when he drifts into the middle and right, which is a more natural position. And it's like, well, hang on, it's the exact same thing. Like he's trying to tell Foden to play out on the left and actually he's dragging him in. So then he switches up the system and then that's wrong. And then he changes the system to a back four for the final because of Spain winners. And then that's wrong. And it's a case of, well, if everything's wrong, but yeah, I've got the best record of our lifetime really as England manager. What's left for him to do? I don't think he's going to be exactly have the elite clubs lining up for him, but I guarantee you, when the vacancy comes round for a club, they're going to be looking at Southgate amongst their candidates all across Europe because he strikes me as the type of manager that would be more appreciated in somewhere like Italy or Spain than he would England for his style of play.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, good points, both of you. So, yeah, I think it is the right time now for Southgate to have 4 tournaments now, and I think even before the last World Cup, do you remember we got hammered by Hungary 4-0 at home, and I remember some quotes from Southgate around the time saying, if the fans want me out, I'll go, kind of thing. So that was 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So there's been talk of, it's only been a couple of days since obviously the final against Spain, but I think it's obviously, it must be clear now that he's been thinking about this all tournament in terms of resigning. Even if we won on Sunday, I think, win or lose, I'm gonna go anyway. I think it is the right decision. I think Wiz, you're right. He's left a really good platform for the next manager to come in. With two European finals, there's nothing to be sniffed at. It's a really good achievement. So let's go into Southgate's reign now. Overall, obviously he's been in charge for sort of about 8 years now. Took over from Sam Allardyce's one game, but it's easy to obviously focus on the most recent tournament. But I think we've got to look at his tenure as a whole. And we've got to remember, obviously Euro 2016, we were a shambles, got knocked out by Iceland, played terribly. And even in the tournaments before, the previous World Cup before that, the 2014, knocked out in the group stages, did okay 2012. And then I thought we were absolutely awful in South Africa in 2010. Germany should beat us 10-1 instead of 4-1. So, and then obviously Euro 2008 we didn't qualify for. So this has been... we have to remember how poor we were before, and I would say our squads are up there now in terms of talent, but at the time we were not a very good team, were we? So Southgate overall has done a really, really good job, and it's the first time that the men's team have got into a European final, let alone two in a succession. So fantastic achievement. Let's obviously go more in depth of his reign. So, Dennis, what are your thoughts on how Southgate's done overall?
I think, you might have seen I put up on my Instagram earlier, so you probably know the answer to this question. Look, we're growing up. Obviously, I'm a little bit young for Euro 96, but we got, like you just said, a decade and a half, or near enough 2 decades, actually, of just absolute nonsense at tournaments. Golden generation 2004, Rooney's injury aside, we should have won that tournament, really, in my opinion, with the squad we had. And, 06 going out on penalties twice to Portugal and a fluke goal against Brazil, although Brazil were definitely better than us, don't get me wrong. That's kind of what we considered a good World Cup. We've had a semi-final, a very tight quarter-final defeat in the World Cups. We've got 2 finals of the Euros. These are the kind of results we were crying out for, or delusional fans thought we were going to get through a divine right of being English at tournaments. And Southgate has actually delivered that. He's, as Wiz said at the beginning, he's kind of repaired that, detoxified the whole concept of England players. Like there's a lot more of connection with the fan base, especially younger fans now. I think his reign, it's one of those ones where when you say goodbye or resign, similar to maybe like, for a lazy comparison, Wenger at Arsenal, or more recently with Moyes, you get a bit of history being rewritten by people that are critical. And there's, a certain radio show that begins with T and rhymes with Orc Sport there were presenters on there, and I won't name them, but you can just go on YouTube, that was hammering him first thing this morning, and then by lunchtime, they were going, oh, you know what? He deserves respect for what he's done. People need to respect him more. We were too harsh to him. There's a bit more of the personal toll. And I think a lot of his reign, this is why I possibly thought he was going to, after the, successful Euros we had, albeit losing the final, when we were minutes away from going out and everyone really expected us to go out as a shambles against Switzerland or Holland. For Southgate, I think it was clinging on to his own personal demons a little bit, or not clinging on, but trying to overcome them, because obviously what happened to him in 96 had a massive effect on the rest of his career. When you take into the context of the fallout of 96, which is being shared on YouTube by ITN quite a bit in the build-up to the final, you sort of realize, you then go back and see some of his interviews even as early as 2018, when he was talking about, trying to eliminate that self-doubt from the team, and especially the sort of fixation on penalty shootouts and penalty shootout training. I think that's possibly what he was trying to achieve and overcome. So I actually believe that even though he could well have stayed on if we had won, I think he would have won and said, right, we've won the Euros after I effectively cost us in Euro 96 because it was basically the real final was us versus Germany. No disrespect to Pavel Nedved and the Czechs. And that's where it was. So when it comes to highlights, personally for me, with the exception of some lowlights, such as going out to France in the World Cup and getting smashed by Hungary and, narrowly losing to the Dutch in the semi-final of the Nations League in 2019, they're virtually all of Southgate's thing with holding the style of play has really been a highlight for us in our generation. In 2014, 2016, we were looking back at Sven-Göran Eriksson's era as like, oh, those were the good old days. Southgate's totally eclipsed that in every shape or form, with the exception of one World Cup quarter-final. So I've rambled on a bit, but that's for me. That's for me the highlights. We've won penalty shootouts, for crying out loud. We've been involved. We've won 3 penalty shootouts in our entire history. He's won 2 of them. We've reached 3 finals in our entire history. The men's team, sorry. He's won 2 of them. So I think a lot of people are going to be giving a latter day apology to him in hindsight, and he's going to be looked back because inevitably this won't last. We'll have one bad tournament. Not saying the next one will be bad. We'll have one bad tournament, and all these people complaining, all the people that are sort of our age when Sven was in charge, people are going to go back and go, if only we still had Southgate, So,
yeah, pretty much. And before I come to you, Wes, obviously, and Wes, you mentioned it earlier as well, and Dennis, about the sort of the culture and stuff. I think, obviously the relationship with the media is so much better. I mean, I know it's been a little bit of criticism of the players in this tournament, but you've got to say it's rightly so. We didn't play very well. Obviously got better against the Netherlands, but particularly like the sort of the tabloids in the early 2000s were rife with stories coming out, and they obviously had more power. Obviously, Leveson Inquiry, etc. Post that is not as powerful in the media, but it seems to be an us and them, like the England men's team against the media. But yes, obviously Gareth Southgate being obviously a former player, a former top player for his clubs and England, just completely sort of moved that aside and made it a really more harmonious relationship, and with the fans as well. Like going back to also the 2018 World Cup, there was no way you would have seen the likes of, Rio Ferdinand, John Terry, whatever, on an inflatable unicorn like Harry Maguire was in the swimming pool. Like, there's just no way, or playing darts with Dele Alli at the same tournament, like through the journalist, just would not have happened. It was, as I say, it was very much an us and them culture. And when England did get inevitably get knocked out, the knives were out for at least 1 or 2 players anyway. Wes, what were your thoughts on obviously Southgate's reign? Obviously, he took over initially as an interim appointment, but yeah, apart from obviously not quite getting over the line in 2 finals, you've got to say it's been a real success, eh?
Depends how you measure it. If you measure it by the results and how far people get in tournaments, then you'd have to say he's a big success. He's the second, by those terms, he's the second greatest manager who's ever managed England. And there's no doubt about that. I think there is a doubt about what his contribution has been to that success. For me, it is about that kind of cultural stuff he's done is really big. I think about creating a really good environment because you can see it. There's not as many stories coming out the camps. There isn't, on the ground, it seems to be. Declan Rice came out and said, we'd go out and die for him. That is not to be sniffed at. That's major, and that's a really major achievement. And also, I don't think it is accidental. People say it's a lottery, but I don't think it's accidental that we've won those shootouts. I don't think it is accidental. I think that's a lot of the work and the rigour that's been put in behind the scenes. But football isn't just a results business. That's a cliche. It's not true. It's a performance business. And in this tournament especially, we've been really poor. And I think we could have expected more. I think there's a broader long-run thing about expectations being too high in England and us not being as good as we think we are. But I think when you look back at some of the results, I think what you said there, Dennis, about the real final in '96 was England versus Germany. I think that gives a kind of insight into how tournament football is. And I think you're kind of right. It felt like the big game, and that, again, not being disrespectful to the Czech Republic. But you can have the kind of 2 finalists, like in this tournament, probably should have been Spain and Germany, they probably had the kind of best in terms of high quality and, drama. They probably had the best game. Germany only made the quarterfinals, I think, didn't they? Yeah, went out quarterfinals. Portugal were the semi-finalists against Spain. So they didn't get their just desserts of being the second best team in the tournament by being on the wrong side of the draw. Now, if we accept that, then it can't be beyond reason that we could have been on the good side of the draw, and we have been. So if you go and look back at 2002, yeah, we went out to that Ronaldinho goal and everything else, but they were the winners eventually. Portugal went on to be finalists in 2004. We lost to again on pens in 2006. We were probably unlucky in those. We were the semi-finalists to the winners in 1996. I think we were fourth to Belgium in 2018. We played Tunisia and Panama, lost to Belgium in the group. We beat Colombia on penalties. We beat Sweden, and then we lost to Croatia, who completely outplayed us. The Germany game in 2020 or 2021 in the end was pretty even game in the qualifiers. Then we played Ukraine. Then we played Denmark, who we beat after extra time, and then we got well beaten really by Italy in the final. I know we could have won on penalties, but then we played Iran, USA, Wales in 22. Then Senegal. Then we played France, got beat by them. I'd say it's probably the best we performed in those tournaments. Actually, still, you wouldn't say, we didn't have to tear down trees to get through those games. And I don't think it's unfair to say what was the quality of the opposition we faced, and does that moderate the view that we have of his success in tournaments? I don't think it's enough to say he got us further. I think you have to look at who we were up against and the tools were at his disposal, which are probably incomparable to any other team for 20 years. This is probably the best team I've seen, best squad, since 2004. And they were a team who really played well. Admittedly, they lost their talisman and fell apart. But if he'd stayed on, I think there's a feeling that perhaps they would have gone on and won the whole tournament, because I think they were really exceptional in the group stage as well.
Wiz, are you saying that Darius Vassell is not in the same league as Wayne Rooney?
Well, he might have been the wrong choice, I think. I think this is where we'll come onto this with managers, and I think there's something about fit. But that should define who we go for. But we had the game against Serbia, we took the lead, dropped back. Bit lucky against Denmark. We had a 0-0 with Slovenia. We needed extra time and a miracle to beat Slovakia. Then we needed penalties to beat Switzerland, and then we played fairly well against Netherlands and got overexcited and then got schooled. That's basically the summary of the tournament. And I think he's good at setting up a team well. He has no means to respond to how the opposition change or to be surprised. His best laid plans are quite good, but then what next? So when Spain went ahead, they changed at half time, much more direct. There was no response to it. Then we throw players on. Then we get the goal, but there's no shape, and they're running through us at will. The first half is very close. Either side hardly creates anything. It's where things begin to change, and he can't respond. And that's what. And I think he doesn't deserve all the kind of hostility or all the credit, personally, for those reasons. If as a collective coaching staff they can't change games and can't, do something other than go 1-0 up and go into a low block, then we've got a problem. There's a fundamental problem, and it's not good enough. The truth is we've got to these finals, but we got there with relatively favourable draws. When we got there, we didn't take advantage of them or play to the potential of the players, I think. Look at the squad composition. No Grealish, no left back. Harry Kane coming out and going, we tried to press, but we didn't know how. Then Southgate coming out after a game and saying we've never really solved the Calvin Phillips problem. Well, that's what you're paid £5 million a year to do. We've got some of the most gifted players in the world. Now, if there's a wider problem, which I think there is about physical conditioning, mental conditioning, and the pressure that comes from the press and the media and the noise, I'm sure these are problems, and they can't be as easily controlled by him. But he can control the decisions he makes in game, the decisions around the squad composition, recognising the basic kind of tactical setup of the opposition and having a plan B. And I don't think he showed pretty much at any point that he could do that. I think the best we did was against France, probably, ironically. But that would be seen as a failure because it was quarter-final. But that was the best we played against a top side who went on and could easily have won that World Cup. It was a bit chaotic, that final. So,
Yeah.
If you could just say one thing quick is making me laugh, and it's because that's a similar thing that a lot of people are saying about the thing. Oh, my valid, genuine criticism of Southgate, and not to make this about West Ham, but the parallels with Moyes is absolutely ridiculous. Yet West Ham fans get absolutely slated when they say it, and I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm saying the ones that do. But then you got a certain radio show called Tea and Rhymes with Walk Sport that are doing both things, slating the West Ham fans for saying the same thing about Moyes, but when they say the same thing about Southgate, they're not out of line. And it's like the parallels are absolutely ridiculous. The only thing I say, which is a fair thing, but you can only beat what's in front of you. You can't pick who your opponent is, and if you're going to get that easy draw, you're going to take it. We laboured against it this tournament, but that's all I'd say to that. That's all.
But I think
just to say, I totally agree on the commentary around this. I mean, in the tournament, I think I said earlier in another video, I said, seeing Gary Lineker sit in an incredibly beautiful apartment in Germany, drinking very expensive red wine, calling players shit and calling the manager shit. Well, he never did nothing. I mean, he's a fantastic player, but what did he win? So he's criticised them, and they played some dog football with Lineker in the side. 1988, I am old, unfortunately, and remember us stinking out the Euros in 88. Where he was involved, or implicated in that tournament. So, it's the commentary, and to hear, when you're hearing Alan Shearer and Gary Lineker and Gary Neville wax lyrical about tactical incompetency, but I think there's been a total disrespect. I have massive respect for what he's done, but I think it has to be kind of moderated a little bit. Yes, he's got to those things, but was it quite all it was cracked up to be? I'm not so sure.
That brings me on nicely into the style of play, which has been talked about a lot in this tournament, but I think throughout Southgate's reign, really. So, is that alone the reason why we've not managed to win the finals? I look back to, obviously, you guys mentioned Italy, the Euros, probably, obviously, looking back, that was our best chance, being played at Wembley. We even took the lead, obviously, with Luke Shaw early on.
But we had Calvin Phillips as well.
But just sitting back, and I think I think it is the right time, because I think now with the way the football was moved on since Southgate was appointed as well, it's completely changed now. With obviously Guardiola's in his invincible era with Man City to win everything, obviously, and the way that the top teams, even teams like Crystal Palace, don't play how like Southgate has set up now. So the amount of Palace players in the Euro squad. So I think it's time to get in an attacking manager who can get the best out of our attacking players. I think that is the time. So Wizard is his tactics and in a bit of inflexibility, attacking mentality. I know he's changed formations. There's a little bit of flexibility, but in terms of the inflexible mentality, is that the reason that unfortunately we've not quite got over the line?
Oh, I think there's loads of reasons, and I wouldn't want to put it on that too much, but that's a clear feature of the way he plays. Because I think, if you look at the semi-final against Croatia in 2018, that has a lot of similarities with how we played the final against Italy. It has a lot of similarities to how we played almost all of this tournament. There's something in there that won't be his fault, and there are some things that he has to take responsibility for as manager. I wonder if in aggregate, say he had been a more progressive manager, whether we would on average have worse results over those 4 tournaments. But we would have a win. I don't know. Look, the best side doesn't always win. But you've got more chance if you try and control the game. And when you've got the personnel we've got, I don't think that's unreasonable. When he took over, I can understand the approach. But I actually think the squad choices he made were poor. I think it wasn't balanced, and I think I think you're right about Italy. They were more beatable. But I mean, the personnel was pretty good in that Italy side, actually. But Spain felt less beatable because we'd been so poor. And also, they were so obviously a team and a balanced team. And they had that thing, I think we spoke about the way Arsenal, I think this is particularly true of Arsenal. You know how they can hurt you, but it is incredibly hard to stop. Because you have to accommodate and compromise your own game plan to do it, and they're ruthlessly efficient. They know their roles. They're much less of a kind of, Arteta as the prodigy, kind of sorcerer's apprentice. They're not that type of side. They are what they did to Brighton. I remember in the game where they just took all risk out of it, and that's a really good quality. And I think they would be the model actually for international football. I don't know whether you can coach like Guardiola at international level. I'm not sure you can do that. I think there's too much.
I don't think there's enough time. There's not enough time with the training ground.
Yeah, there's too much. You're taking players from different systems and all sorts of things. I think it's really, really difficult, to do that. So I think it's tough to ask that. But to me, it comes down to really small things like you watch the game, something's happening, then you work out what's happening, but there's no response. There's no response either in terms of tactical changes or in personnel changes, or they're probably too late. And it's so I think we could have expected better performances, but there's no guarantee of better results as a consequence of that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just quickly, Dennis, obviously, it's hard to sum it up in one reason. There's probably a multitude of reasons, but why do you think we've not been able to actually lift the trophy under Southgate? Is it the style of play? Is it the lack of in-game, substitutions at the right times, mentality? What would you put it down to?
I think it's two different reasons for each final. So what I could put it down to one reason for each final. So this final, I'm just going to say it, Spain were the best. I don't think with the personnel we had, there was realistic, you could start Oli Palmer, which I think he deserved to start, but is he going to be doing all the defensive running that Bukayo Saka is going to be doing? Things like that.
You've done it again, Dennis. You said Oli Palmer again.
He's
talking too much. Talking too much about Wrexham all the time. But Ollie Watkins and Cole Palmer, for example, I don't think like I think it was that there was a lack, inability to react to that first sub, which is totally true. But what would you have changed in that situation if the first half was doing so well? And then there's that mentality of, similar to quote Al Pacino in Any Given Sunday, we still block, we still tackle. Yeah, we've conceded early, but just do what you were doing before. And so I think it was just that I think no matter what happened, Spain were just too good for us in the final last Sunday. That's my genuine, honest belief. Italy, it was substitutions, in my honest opinion, because, for example, I'm going to get pelters here, but taking off Rice for Henderson in the final was absolutely insane. And I'm going to be maybe a bit biased there, but there's quotes from the Italian bench. Like Buffon was like, why the hell are they taking... Everyone was shocked they took Rice off. And I felt we're over-reliance on players that were clearly knackered in both finals, but more so, I think, in 2020. And it was inevitable they were going to concede. We needed to change things. We went 1-0 up and sat back against Italy. If he had a little bit more nous on the substitutions, which I think... He's not as bad as people say, because if you look what happened in all the knockout games, Ivan Toney influenced the Slovakia game. Ivan Toney and Trent came on and scored excellent penalties that people on the pitch may not have done. And Ollie Watkins and Cole Palmer won us the game against Holland. So his substitutions weren't all that bad. Bit late, but not all that bad. But that's what it is. So 2020, it was that inability to change the tactical nous. And 2024, I just think Spain were just too good for us.
Yeah, and I think there were shades of the Italy final in the Croatia semi-final as well in 2018.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
So let's move on to who should replace Gareth Southgate. Obviously, there's a whole host of names that have been linked with. So, Dennis, which ones stand out for you, and who would you actually, if you were in charge at the FA, who would you actually go for?
Well, my thing is, even though Southgate has kind of bucked the trend for me, because I do consider Southgate's run relatively successful based on the results, getting to finals, which no manager's really done consistently before. I always believe in international management, you've got to have managers that are good at knockout cups, because it's all well and good winning the league, but you can afford to draw and lose games, sacrifice some games to win you the league. But managers that consistently win cups, for me, that's why I'd always go for it's not going to happen, but like a Mourinho, for example, who wins loads of cups. However, the names band, there's not many realistic options out there that tick that box or fit that bill. You know, back in the day, people would say Benitez, but I think games passed him by. Eddie Howe is I think it's going to be Graham Potter because he's available, but I think it's going to be between Potter and Eddie Howe. Out of those two, I'm a little bit torn, but I'm possibly going to go with Eddie Howe out of the two because he seems to have done it at multiple clubs within England. Like he did quite well at Bournemouth, very limited. Well, not quite really, considering
very well.
Yeah, okay. Let me say. So he didn't achieve too much, but what he did outside of competitions, like to take that club realistically from League One upwards with shoestring budget after shoestring budget.
League Two.
Yeah. Oh, was it League Two? I thought it was League One.
League Two.
Okay, but then the irony is the first time he gets a bit of money, he spends it and they get relegated. Whereas then to go to Newcastle, and admittedly, yeah, he did have a lot of transfers come in his first January window, which people tend to overlook, but immediately upturn in fortune and then top four. Yeah, with all the funds, I know, but when you're England manager, you get to pick Harry Kane and Ivan Toney, which you don't get to do at club level. You get the best English players. You get Foden on a plate rather than can we buy him off City? So I would lump for Howe out of that lot. There is some rumours going around that Moyes might be approached, but he's Scottish, so I don't think that's going to happen. And he'll get eaten alive, similar to the Southgate stuff. The difference is he's going to be a lot less positive in his interviews on it. I'm sure I've missed some other names that might be banded about, but I just think it's going to be between Potter and Howe.
Pochettino's been linked.
Pochettino, Argentinian, nah. Hand of God.
But in terms of obviously he's managed England, he's got a really good, sort of way of managing young players. Cole Palmer being one of them last season, as will testify as a Chelsea fan. So he's one who's been linked there. For me, I think in terms of the English manager's got to be out of Eddie Howe and Graham Potter. I would go for Eddie Howe. I think he's more experienced at the top level than what Graham Potter is. He plays a really good style of football, which would definitely suit our team. Excusing Harry Kane, take him out of the team, put him on the bench, and put someone else up front. Suit us down to the ground the way he plays, high intensity football. He's obviously got that Champions League experience now from last season. Obviously, admittedly, Newcastle finished bottom. They still had that brilliant night at St James against PSG. And plus also as well, he's evolved as a manager as well. And you need to have some sort of defensive stability now in tournaments. Admittedly, last season they had Nick Pope injured and a few injuries at the back. But the previous season, they played unlike Eddie Howe with this defensive stability and the amount of clean sheets they kept. He went away after leaving Bournemouth and studied Diogo Simeone up close. So he's not just an all-out attack manager now. How he can set up a team that is defensively a bit more solid. So I think he's got the all-round game to manage England, and I say he's got the experience now. So he'd been my shout. But I do like Graham Potter as a manager. I think he was treated very harshly at Chelsea. He was never really going to succeed there. But the job he done at Brighton and the way he improved individual players, I never thought to see the day where Shane Duffy would be a ball-playing defender. Do you know what I mean? So I think, his patterns of play with, again, possession-based football would really suit us. So I think out of them two, I'd say I'd go for Eddie Howe, but I wouldn't be too unhappy with Graham Potter as well. Yeah. I think there's been other names like Klopp, Guardiola. I mean, that's not going to happen. That's a bit right. Pochettino is not a bad shout, but again, I think compared to when Southgate took the interim role, we were the English managers at the time was Alan Pardew and Steve Bruce. So look how far it's a lot different now in terms of the caliber.
There is one overseas manager that I would like, but I don't think it's going to happen. But it's been suggested seriously on Twitter because of his relationship with Bellingham is Ancelotti, who I think is the most underrated manager in the history of football.
Well, but he certainly fits the knockout.
Yeah.
You know, because the Champions League, he's Champions League.
Yeah, but I just don't see him. I see him being at Real Madrid till he retires, personally. But that's the other one I would lump for. But I think Pochettino is more likely than him, definitely. And I wouldn't be totally against Pochettino. It's just I think we've now got it in our heads that we have to have an English manager. So,
yeah, well, I think it's come to you, Wes. I mean, the FA Chief Executive Mark Bullingham obviously released a statement earlier today as well. He said something quite interesting. Near the end of his statement, he said the process for appointing Gareth's successor is now underway. We aim to have a new manager confirmed as soon as possible. Our UEFA Nations League campaign starts in September, and we have an interim solution in place if it is needed. So I'm guessing that's going to be Lee Carsley, who's the under-21s manager at the moment.
And they're playing brilliant football.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are your thoughts on who's been linked? And as I said to Dennis, if you were at the FA, who would be your number one choice?
Well, okay, Carsley, I don't think is that romantic, but I think he's quite an FA type appointment because they'll just try and repeat what they did with Southgate in a way. So I think I can understand it. I don't think he's going to get the fans excited, but he might be a decent choice. I'd have to have seen more of him. I don't know enough about his side, so I wouldn't be able to comment. Howe is a much more conservative and defensive coach than I think he used to be. But I think he's pretty competent, and I think that actually makes me like him more for an international team. Potter has got a lot more than he showed at Chelsea. There's good continuity in the beard style of Southgate that he would continue. So I think that's good stability. Poch is a good manager, really agreeable guy. I like him. Don't think he should be in sack like most of the last 6 Chelsea managers. He feels like a very day-to-day manager to me. But so whether he'd go to that, I don't know. I also think, although I don't care about it being a foreigner one bit, I think there's a communication issue with him as well. I don't think his English is necessarily good enough to communicate to the players or the press, which would be a major thing if you're an Argentinian. The rumour I kept hearing or seeing earlier which is like, I don't know, it's like reality imploding. If Jurgen Klopp is 1% interested in this job, give him 20 million and all the Erdinger he can drink and just get him because he's the best manager in the world. So just go and get him. If there's any chance of getting him at all, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's absolutely insane. But if the best manager in the world is never available, if he is interested, just get him. Ancelotti, I think, would be a pretty good choice. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about Ancelotti. I think just because if you're going to get a national manager, I just want it to be Klopp. The one person I'm surprised for English people who hasn't been linked, and maybe I must be missing something, but why is Gary O'Neill not being mentioned? Because what he's done at Bournemouth and Wolves, I mean, there was talk about him winning Manager of the Year. Like, people were seriously thinking he should have won Manager of the Year with what he achieved. And he looks like he really knows what he's going. When I watch them, I think, I can see there's a plan here. And then you watch him play an opposition, you think they're going to wreck them. I won't say the word. They're going to mess them up because they can do this, and you see each side trying to negate the strengths of the opposition, like he's actually watched them. And it's not just the kind of flat, kind of general way of setting up a side. He does very specific things in games to negate the opposition. That's why they have these shock results and performances.
Yeah, I think he's the one after. I think it's just a bit too soon for him. That's all I'd say.
Yeah, maybe. But I like him a lot out of the English camp. I think has decent. Carsley, from what I understand. If Dennis, you think he plays good stuff, that'd be nice. But
yeah, he does.
If Jurgen Klopp is available, and I'm a Chelsea fan, it does not give me any pleasure. He's one of the best. I think he's right at the very top we've ever had in the Premier League. With what he's had to fight, like a doped club, and all of this stuff he's had to fight against, he's incredible. And talk about man-manager character to take on the press, make bold decisions. He can take Mo Salah on, who's like this Liverpool legend, one of the greatest players ever to play for Liverpool. He's just got, and his tactical work is just incredible. You want pressing, I mean, and what he'll bring with him in terms of coaching staff. Just oh man, I just love him. Like maybe Pep Linders have come with it. I mean, it'd be incredible. But
I think obviously they didn't have in the end the best tournament. Germany, obviously, because they were in the wrong side of the draw. But obviously, Nagelsmann, you think would he be in club management soon? So that would be the opening for Klopp, surely, to take the Germany.
Maybe. I would have liked Nagelsmann at Chelsea, but that's a separate thing. But yeah, it's
the other issue with Klopp is, like I said, it's what you said beforehand. The only issue for me with Klopp is the amount of time he'd have with the players to teach them the way they want to do. You said that because you mentioned that with Guardiola. That's the only reason I'd say, is Klopp going to be able to get that impact? Because he's only going to have about 9 weeks a year with the lads. And maybe in that about 30 training sessions, maybe 35. I don't think so. Other than that, him and Guardiola tick both boxes, get one of them. Because Guardiola says this City contract is the last one he's going to sign, allegedly. But yeah, other than that, Klopp, I ruled him out because of that. And I did actually mean to talk a bit about Lee Carsley, but we've all said it. Like, he knows some of the young players coming forward, and he plays very good football. Wouldn't be against it, but I think it's going to be Howe or Potter. And again, like you said, Bill, I'm happy with either one.
Yeah.
And if Steven Gerrard or Frank Lampard get near this job, forget about it.
If Frank Lampard becomes England manager, broadcasters clip this up, I'll start supporting France.
I think they would have been linked if we didn't have the caliber of the English managers we now have compared to a few years ago. You look, we've got Howe, obviously Potter, Gary Neville, a great shout. Was like them three, obviously way above what Gerrard and Lampard are as a manager. So if we didn't have them three, then I think those, even Rooney, would have been linked. But do you know what I mean? So, but
leave
obviously,
Wayne alone.
He's lucky to get Plymouth, mate. Did he get them? God,
yeah,
he's lucky to get that. He'd lucky to get White Hart United. Honestly.
So yeah, I think if we didn't have them, the three in the Prem at the moment, or Potter's not in the Prem, but like, you know, last couple of jobs, it's been like, if we didn't have those three English managers, then you know, and obviously Dyche as well. There's another one for, but like, say if we didn't have them, then I think the likes of the former players would have been more of a genuine show. Would it be a farce if any of them were linked, which I've not seen. So, thankfully, right. Well, thanks, guys. I think we've summed up as much as we can. Southgate's round could have gone on a bit longer, but in the interest of time, we'll leave it there. So, Wiz, Dennis, thanks for your time, lads, and we'll catch you soon. So, thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe if you're new around here. Let us know your thoughts on Gareth Southgate in the comments below. It'd be great to read those. We'll see you soon. All the best. Take care.